How to apply for a business loan online up to 2 million, 5 million plus, incredibly fast without collateral, no hard credit checks, bad credit is accepted, and lower documentation, as well as the vice versa. Good credit, you want a higher service, higher documentation, higher revenue, etc. Hi, my name is Michael with Viral Funding Solutions. I'm an expert business loan broker who helps out a lot of businesses get the right type of financing under the right vehicle strategically and the right roadmap for longer term. Now, I have a few minutes to share this with you before I have to get back to doing a few things on video for a few clients to help with, and then I have a few questionnaires to get back to. So I want to keep this as short and concise and very helpful for you, but you can always refer to the description down below if you're watching on YouTube or if you're watching right now on the TikTok channel, as I sometimes stream live here, then you can go to the bio, click on the link, and see the resources. The first one would be the best one. That's the funding submission form. Fill that out, and then I will evaluate, analyze, and give you a proper response back via email. So again, I have a few minutes before I have to get back. So how do you apply for a business loan online without making mistakes, without having to struggle, without having to just apply anywhere and everywhere, and then getting emailed, phone called, text messaged, and reached in many ways you didn't even imagine they'd have that information from you. And they're calling you, telling you, hey, with this credit score and with this revenue we've seen you have, and you're like, who are you and how'd you get that information? I never did apply to you. And so you have to be very cautious in this space. First and foremost, before we get into how to apply, you have to understand that an education in this industry is most important. And I will also go into it briefly on some of the qualifications before you go into the application for certain services. So first of all, step one is making sure that you understand the pre-approval process, that you understand where you are positioned right now. What kind of knowledge, what beliefs do you have? What thought process about getting a business loan or business funding? You might think, well, I deserve a monthly repayment with $300,000 if I'm generating $600,000 in revenue, or $200,000, or I'm doing $50,000 a month. And so you have this context already built. And again, keep in mind, I'm a professional at what I do. I help out a lot of businesses, and I really much do care about you as a person, human first. You're not a number to me. And then we can focus on the business. You have a friend or a family member here you can honestly depend on, even if we're not blood related, and so forth. But you have to know that without making mistakes time and time again, applying anywhere and everywhere to these online marketplaces that just send your information to other third parties, these lenders who then shop your information around, your credit can then be hurt. You can end up on the dark web. I've literally had people come to me with that information and that problem. It's really bad. And even if they weren't doing that, they might not tell you, but you get soft pulls, and that's inquiries, even if it's just a soft pull. So when you go and apply to something else, that will reflect. Even when you go to apply to a different business loan lender or an advanced lender, etc., then they'll look at that in the system because they communicate with one another. And I know what they're doing because I have the best network of lenders and underwriters. You cannot just go anywhere and apply just to see what you'll get. And then, okay, I'm going to see how I compare that with this. Sometimes it's okay, but I can lessen that for you. I can work with direct lenders, and I can also work with direct lenders, but in a brokerage setup, but I already have those partnerships. And in the market, that's what's best. And I have the best setup for that, just so you guys know, communication process and all. So first of all, it's being aware before you go in and to apply, what are all these little discrepancies and what you shouldn't and should do. That is a big part. And I won't spend too much time right now on this because I've created content on it. I'll try to link you guys to it in the description. But I've already talked about, before going into an application, some of the things now, but I go into it even deeper to be careful about. And understanding the pre-approval process, the steps it takes to making sure before you go into an application and you go and you learn, okay, how to apply for a business loan. And maybe you're searching this on YouTube at a time, and you're trying to find a lot of videos to compare them, and it's just not enough meat and potatoes. Some people are not pros at what they do. They probably heard about it. They don't give you enough. So just be very cautious on where you find this information and is it most up to date. I know everything that happens internally with all the lenders and underwriting in their system, so I get it. It's very well. And so you have to understand that there's a step-by-step process to becoming pre-qualified, and I'll answer any comments if you guys choose to. And so when you know not to go here, not to do these scandalous things, and be careful and wary of how they collect your information. And there's even the Experians of the world, TransUnion, and those companies who do end up gathering your information. If you've already applied somewhere, other organizations will take that, buy it, and then try to contact you. So be very cautious. It's not me. And so knowing that in mind, some of the qualifications I want to get into before we go into applying, and this varies again depending on the service. So it's not just saying, how do I apply for a business loan? Even if you try to apply for a business loan through the bank, you have to have the documentation, you have to have the qualifications, the requirements. You have to understand the breakdown perhaps of a ballpark amount that you could potentially get up to. And I pre-underwrite files, just so you know. I'm like an underwriter and somewhat of a lender. Before I send it over to my team, I want to make sure, and I send it to the right one, that I have everything that I need. The files, the documentation, everything gets going in the right direction. And I will never do something that's in my best interest just to make the money, the most amount. I don't do that. I do what's in your best interest. So again, staying on the topic of how do you apply for a business loan online. You've been searching everywhere, internet, YouTube, blogs, social media. You maybe have seen me on some reels or a blog or YouTube, and you know me enough now that you're confident enough that I can deliver, which I do. And I very much again say that I take care of each person individually, and I remember those of you who I've helped. And even if I haven't helped you, it doesn't have to necessarily be that you have to have a business loan for me to respect that more than somebody who can't or hasn't. That doesn't make sense. So each person is different, and your needs are as well. So again, just don't make the mistakes of applying anywhere and everywhere, just searching every YouTube channel or every single video because they have likes. They have more likes than I do, or maybe I have more. But I'm saying this again, as a professional, I'm somebody you want to lean with. And you're right next to me. You're not across the table, just here speaking, normal conversation. But be very careful. And then just clicking ads online that just appear because they spend a lot of money on spending ads, that's not right. Because it's not best, because they don't always have the best lenders as well, and how they send your information out and the care that they take, and not giving you the best at all times. So for qualifications, I want to give you guys this treat before you go and apply online. And this is specific to certain services. So this is like an intermix of a term loan with an advance, a hybrid advance. You've probably heard of merchant cash advances, but this is not exactly that. This is a hybrid advance where it encompasses, where we look at all revenue coming into your business. And we can do somewhere between 3 to 24, more so 4 to 24 month timeframes. And that's what you see in the market. With unsecured financing, meaning non-collateralized, then you get between 3 to 24 months usually. Sometimes it's at 36 months because the banks aren't lending as much currently. And up to that amount, and the amount that they're wanting to lend per person and per business, it's become much harder. But usually you see between 3 to 24, 4 to 24 months. Sometimes we can extend that. If you're looking for 3+ years and it makes sense, then we might have to go for an SBA loan, a personal loan, equipment loan specifically. Line of credit is harder to get past that. It's usually up to about 18 months, non-collateralized. Collateralized, you can do 18 to 24 plus months or so at times, depending on the market and your industry as well. So we have to keep that in mind. So for qualifications, keep this in mind. This is not collateral. Usually there is a PG involved. That's okay. If there's a personal guarantee involved, so be it. You have to be liable. You have to be accountable and responsible for your own finances. Why would a lender not? And especially if they don't know you, it's not like a business credit card in all times where if you find the right one and you work within that company again, you can get a no PG business credit card. And that's something else you guys should be working on, is getting business credit cards, getting access to personal credit, and differentiating the two. And I'm going to leave resources in that bio as well as in the description. And take it seriously, guys. When you guys get in these programs, whether there's a cost or you can get started for free, if there is a cost to endure, that's not a bad thing. That's an investment you're making for your future. That's an opportunity cost. Yeah, you can see it as a sunk cost once you put money in, but the opportunity cost of what you're foregoing, of what you wouldn't do if you didn't do it, is a lot of mistakes, less funding. You have to rely on loans all the time, on business loans, business advances. So there's quite a bit there I can go into. So for qualifications, you're operating for profit for one specific service. A nonprofit could work if all the details are lined up and you have other streams of earning income in that nonprofit, other organizations, not just getting charity and money just given to you, but other ways you're collecting and earning that business. So we could look at it, it's a per case basis, but from the majority of it, you're operating for profit. And here I'm using my document that I put together, and usually I send with people, so I want to make sure I don't miss anything. And I have it by memory, but I just want to use this. Do you have a business checking account? It must be in the name of your business, not a personal account you're using for business. Now there's an exception to that. So if you have a personal account, Maybe you are a sole proprietor, 1099, independent contractor. You just started your business. I've been there, done that, getting started. And I didn't have an LLC, S Corp, C Corp. I didn't even develop that for some time until I knew the parameters and I understood why it's so important, especially when I'm building business credit. There's more of an advantage there. So if you haven't, that's something you want to lead into in time. But if you have a personal account you're using for business, you're limited to like one specific, 1 to 2, one lender, the majority of it. If not, you're limited to like those PayPal working capital accounts. And even those, it's kind of hard, especially if you don't have enough history built up with those services. But a personal account, a lender, they're going to want to see at least $3,000 per month, in the last 3 months, at least 3 months time in business. But you're going to get approved somewhere between 20 to 25% in some cases for what you can get if you did have a business checking account and you were generating more revenue. So if you're generating at least $5,000 plus a month, have a business checking account, and usually you get 75 to 200% of that lowest monthly revenue. And we also look at the average of the last 3, sometimes last 6. So we look at the last 3 months and we can look at the lowest month. A lot of the times we go with the lowest one because to be more conservative, and that gives us an actual representation of where you are and where you could be also in some time and why it's that way for the market we're speaking at. And I'll go to the comments in a moment. So make sure you have a business checking account. And again, just so you guys know, I can spend hours upon hours on each one of these bullet points that I'm going through, but for time, and I have to get going in a little bit. You're depositing your funds into one primary business checking account and you're not transferring within multiple accounts over and over again, which looks suspicious and it's hard to track, especially if those online transfers from checking, you guys see that on the bank statements, they come in, go out, and comes from like a vendor or similar, then it wouldn't be counted as true deposits or organic deposits, stated revenue, meaning we don't count that as overall of your revenue in your business, especially if it's being transferred in a way where we can't verify where it's coming from. Maybe it's from a vendor, or maybe it's from a Chime account, or maybe they're sending it from a personal. It could be even a business account that they're sending it from. Not easily trackable, but if it is, even then, it's like we don't want to count that. We don't know where that money's been. We don't know what they've done. We don't want to have to go investigating that money. And so it's hard when I have a lot of business owners who come to me who are even doing like $4 million a month, literally, but their depositing isn't right because they were never taught how to deposit correctly. And if you're depositing, your schedule doesn't look right, then we may look at a form of collateral. Sometimes we don't need to look exactly at all that. When we can bypass that because you have the collateral, you have the assets. We don't have to look at your credit score if you have bad credit. So if you have assets, AR, accounts receivables, you have heavy equipment or any form of equipment that is collateralized, open receivables, 100,000 and above, 300,000. Some AR factoring lenders will look at 500,000 and above. It's also specific to each industry. And it varies too against the market. So have true deposits. I always tell every business owner, deposit into that one business checking account primarily. That one account that you are going to go in and apply with for a business loan or an advance or whatever it is, that you use that account because that's what we'll be looking at. And if there's other bank accounts you have with other bank statements, we're going to ask for them. Of course, it's only right that we do. You might have different banking institutions, which is fine. And you may be in a transition to another new bank or another one, but that's fine. We just want to see what you've accumulated and if it's asked for because of the time frame you're in that transition phase, 2 months in with this account, and then you put 1 month of bank statements like Wells Fargo, 2 months, and then recently you just transitioned into Chase. We're going to want to see everything you have, at least 3 months maybe underneath Wells Fargo, at least that 1 month with Chase because that's all we could see, and how you're depositing and then your frequency of doing it is most important as well. And stated revenue, if you have multiple business checking account transfers, then we will have to look through all of them, but also make sure you apply with your highest revenue one. If you have bank statements with different banks, then we will likely need the last 3 months of each bank account, and you will want to apply with your highest earning bank account. And like again, I said, if you're transitioning, you can only probably have so much of bank statements for that banking institution. No more than 5 non-sufficient funds, or that's also NSFs for short, or negative days in any of the last 3 months. So you can't have any more than 5 non-sufficient funds, overdrafts, and you're going into your account withdrawing from money you don't even have in there. You've got negative in the account. That's obvious. If you've dealt with that, you know the feeling of it. You know why you got there and what you have to do to get out of it. Maybe you're still in that transition phase trying to figure that out. Maybe that is a reason why you need money. But there are many reasons to this. I don't want to get too in detail on chargebacks, overdrafts, and so much more that I can get into on that. But that's self-explanatory in the last 3 months. So they can give you about 90 days. Sometimes if you're a higher tier, then if you're looking for higher tier, A tier lenders, with a bigger service, they may say we don't want to see any in the last 30 to 60 days or any in the last 30 days at all. Maybe you can only have one. But if that's the case and you have more, then we can work with it. There's been cases where you can have like 3 negative days or 2 negative days and you can still get approved with higher average daily bank balances. Average monthly bank balances help too, but you're generating stronger revenue. Cash flow is strong enough where we look at that and go, okay, and then they're credit worthy, so they show us enough history that they can make the repayment, that even if they went negative once more, we know their projection value. So we're willing to take more of a chance. And again, I know the minds of the lenders and the best of the best, A tier, B, C, D tier, E tier, etc. And I vetted the best in the industry, just so you guys know. So there's no fluff here. I'm giving you guys real stuff. And if anything else comes up, I'll make sure to share it with you guys. But for the majority, I know what's happening in this industry. So another case is if you're coming to a specific revenue, I might ask you, are you doing 15K plus per month in sales within each of the last 3 months? There might be a service where I ask you if you're doing 5K, are you doing 3K? So 15K, 20K, sometimes 30K with lower credit, especially for some equipment financing situations. We might ask for that. So are you doing 15K plus per month in sales within each of the last 3 months? So it has to be congruent, 15, 18, 20, 30, or 15, 15, 15, not 15, 10, 12, not 15, 15, 10. So we'll take that 10K month and we'll base our amount that we could actually give you, usually up to 75% of that 10K at that point, because your revenue is lower than 15K in the last 3 months. It's not 15, 15 or everything above 15, where we can a lot of the times take an average of those three or take the lowest even at that point and get you between 75 to 200%. 75 to 150, 50 to 150%, just depends on the lender that we go and associate with. Credits are also a good factor. So if you're in retail, restaurants, or any other similar industry, or you're putting and pumping in credits into your business, the more the better. And then the different depositing that I can look at when the bank statements come into me, how they're given to me, if you send them to me via email. There's also an online portal where we can get them safely and securely in our back office, and I go to work back there and I review everything before, and we do some pre-underwriting before we can send it off over, and I can find out which offers are best for you or which one lender. Sometimes I may pull from 2 or 3, but I'm entertaining those 2 and I say I want that third one, because now that they saw that I'm entertaining them, they're going to want to give you more, better rates, better terms. And so we don't hurt your credit. We protect it. It's safe and secure. Sometimes we go direct, but the majority of the time it's better to do it in this, because I already have those direct lender partnerships where I can go to them and I do the best. They know my relationship with them personally and in business. Not everything is created equally, guys. I'm not sure if you guys even ask these questions when you guys go apply for business funding, but you should. And so once you start asking the hard questions, just imagine the answers they'll give you in response. They're going to try to sometimes bait and switch you. They'll try to give you something to make it sound good for you, and vice versa. Don't tell me something that sounds good and not act on it. I hate that. Now, over here, and it's not being aggressive, that's just tough love. I want discipline. I want somebody who's punctual. I want somebody who's going to leave if they have characteristics that are flawed, and that leaves out the door. We can work on that before we go into an application, but please don't do that, because you'll only create friction and resistance with me. I don't want to have to age 30 years. And believe me, I've had to go through that. I've dropped and I've had to drop people because of these instances. And I'm telling you guys, when you guys come to the best, we don't put up with that. And you're going to get the most respect anyways. You're going to get the best communication possible from me. If you don't have that, there's another service you can refer to, is what I explained in this part of my document. Current loan consideration. If you have a current capital advance, the amount you still owe will be taken into consideration and cause a reduction in your approval amount. More funds, which are second to fourth position, sometimes we can do only 1 to 2. Just depends on the service. If you're doing less than $15,000, generally it can be usually 1 to 2, may be available. If you have existing cash advances or term loans or whatever, that's an intermix. It will cause a reduction in what you can get. And if you have more positions, you may not get anything at all. And so if you have something that you received at $100,000, you haven't even paid off 50% of the balance, you're looking to consolidate all that underneath one, you got to pay more than 50% usually. So that when we come into the second position, we can get you more than $100,000 more likely, probably get you $200,000 the next time, or $150,000. So we can cover the rest of the remaining balance, put it underneath one, consolidate it. Now, if you have multiple positions, it's much harder to do, especially if you haven't paid over 50% of it. And even if you have, it's harder. We're only giving you more debt on top of debt. We might not be able to pay off that one position or those 2 positions. Generally, we want one position to pay off a lot of the times. So if we're coming in, we might have to give you a second or third position. And so just keep that in mind, that if you're looking to get more funding the second time and you haven't paid off 50% of that balance, or you still have more remaining, you just took out $100,000. You haven't even paid off $80,000 of that. you're only paying off 10,000 in the first week or so, whatever it is, and you're looking for an additional 200,000, like that doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. How are we can only lend you so much per month, 16 to 18% of funding, and a little bit more. There's a little bit more of a technicality there that I'm not going to jump too much into right now. But we don't want to over leverage you, bottom line. We don't have to give you a higher enough weekly or a daily repayment. And that's how a lot of these work, by the way. If you're underneath the assumption that you're going to get a monthly, unless you have a 753 plus in credit, 750 plus in credit, sometimes 800, 3+ years time in business, closer to 50,000 in sales, more so 100,000. It's also specific to each industry. Even then, it's hard to get one because of the amount you get. And we don't want to have to give you a huge lump sum at the end of the month that's non-collateralized. Unless it's collateralized, and we could possibly look at monthly lines of credit, equipment, SBA loans, personal/startup loans, etc. Business credit cards, the list can go on and on. But these term loans, intermix, advances, 4 to 24, 3 to 4 to 24 months are very common, and it's what the majority of people get. And so over here, as I said, and I'll come to the comments in a moment, but if it goes the same with all small business loans, but if it's idle and if it's a bank loan, we can come in another position. Like it's bank related, lines of credit, we could try to come in one line of credit. It's a lump sum here, we can try to come in another position in that. It's fine. And then we have to look at the file too and what you've done. And if you've been a little bit over leveraged with DTI, debt to income ratio can be a factor with these, so we don't want to over leverage you. Although we look at revenue strongly, credit is not so much, but credit is a factor to terms and rates, just so you know. And we do look at these things like charge-offs, new open trade lines, derogatory accounts, etc. if you're over leveraged, and we don't believe you'll be able to make the payments back. So, but if it's idle that you only have, then it's okay. Or it's idle in a conjunction of another type of advanced funding. Idle is separate from term loan intermix as non-collateralized. It's separate than another SBA loan, like an SBA 7A 504 loan. So you can get the two together. You can get multiple SBA loans over time. Consolidation, and it doesn't cause a reduction if you have idle usually. Consolidation, for example, we can either give you a second position. I already spoke about this actually. Give you a larger loan and pay off the first one. You net the difference if we're able to do that. And if you, so again, if we can either give you a second position if you don't already have one, where you don't have to pay off your first one, or we give you a large loan and pay off, or an advance and pay off your first and you net the difference. Huge one here. Listen up. Open up your ears for me, because a lot of people don't understand this. Not have a default with another advanced loan company at all. In this industry, if you default, especially government default, don't even bet on getting more. You said, oh, I paid it off, I removed this off my report. And a lot of the times you may have a default with a judgment in place. You've been sued. There's a lawsuit. You've been mandated. You've been told to go to a court order. You've been given information on the circumstances of making sure you pay this back. And you've gone beyond. You've breached. So don't just avoid. And bankruptcy is not the answer to this, guys. Like, if you're in a position where you have to, I get it. But because you've defaulted and you go bankrupt and you open up again underneath the same entity or a different entity, that follows you. That's credit-based too. That follows you to another organization. I have people who do that all the time. Hey, Michael, I opened up a different entity underneath a different name doing business as. I have a different entity structure. I'm not LLC yet. I'm actually starting this way because of what I had last time. And I opened up a new business checking account underneath actually a different business institution. And I go, even with that, you know that follows you underneath your name, also personally underneath your name. You've defaulted. You're liable and you didn't make the payments. So I don't want to spend too much time on defaults, judgment in places. I have another video. I may be uploading it here soon if it's not already on the YouTube channel. I don't think I've uploaded it yet, but I will. And it talks all about defaults, past defaults, judgments in place, a default currently with judgment in place. And I break down every scenario, what you can do to fix it. It's hard to avoid. Many lenders won't pardon you. They'll try to work with you and say how long it's been. It's probably been like years. You've learned your lesson. You probably took in out funding since then, and you're credible and you've shown you can make the payments. But another lender who's probably new won't take that high of a chance with you and say, hey, you probably got 100,000 here. We're only going to give you 30,000 or 40 or 50, 30 to 50,000. We'll give you half of what you received over there. Whereas opposed to, we could have probably given you more if you hadn't defaulted. And you have a default judgment in place. That doesn't look good for you. And that's the case. It doesn't always show on LexisNexis as it used to. It doesn't show on the credit reports. it's something hard. So you have to track it back to the lender and to that broker or to that person that you were associated with. And it might not be me. I don't have access to that. And the lender and the underwriter doesn't always want to give that information up. And it's a very hard thing to do because other people can be held liable. And so just be careful of that. If you've defaulted, just contact your credit bureaus, have a communication channel with them, your lender. They'll give you some extra pointers because they have a lot more information than I do on that. They can't always disperse it to me, even though I'm very well trusted. They give me a lot more room, but sometimes they can't with that personal information. They'll go like, okay, Michael, we can't do that. We don't want to have you be liable, and we don't want to be liable for something like that. And it's very sensitive information, guys. Okay, this can also be a default, as I said, with the judgment in place, which doesn't make it any better. And when you default on a lump sum or even on a lump sum, then no line of credit lender will want to lend to you. Even if you're A tier, a lot of the times they will not give you money. They're not going to give you a line of credit because you have a lump sum and you've proven it. They don't a lot of the times want to work with you because it's credit based. Even if it's most recent or if it's taken time and it's been removed somehow, which is hard to because these things show up. So background checks. And the only thing you can do, by the way, you got to start off with something. You say, hey, somebody's going to only give me $7,000. I realistically only needed 10 to 20K. Let's start off with 7K. I can use that. And then you can come back, pay it off, and 50% of it paid off. And then you can get more, maybe double next time, 14 to 20,000. And then you're better off that way. And then you're working underneath one lender instead of saying 7,000 here, 7,000 there. And when you default, everybody won't open the door for you that way. But keep that in mind. There's a lot more with defaults. I was going to mention more, but it's something that I'm going to be releasing so you guys can learn more about those. Be very cautious of it. And then when you go into defaults, by the way, guess I'll get on it again. When you do this and you get a bank verification, there's a hello sign contract agreement or another form. It's very legitimate from the lender. Then we can send you a bank verification through Decision Logic where we're going to ACH deposit, ACH withdrawal. We have to see what's in the account, make sure everything looks good. Your depositing schedule doesn't look good for that month, but you deposited better last month. The lender has the authority to drop down how much they can actually get you. That's fine. That's how it works. So just try to apply when you have the highest amount of revenue, amount of sales generated. And that's typically a lot for business owners at the beginning of a month. So I wouldn't wait middle. I wouldn't wait towards the end. This is why I'm very congruent and very diligent on making sure you guys understand this. Comments in a moment. And so they'll do a manual bank verification where they'll send you a link. We'll send you a link to log in. One bank account or you have multiple that we have to go through. Username, password, very safe and secure. Sometimes we do temporary. But the other way is also manually through the phone. You're gonna have to connect with the lender and they're gonna want to gather that information. Could be temporary, could be the full username and password. Very safe and secure, but I get it. Call, I don't want to do it. I can get it. Like people you don't know are listening in, but it's very safe and secure. I've had people do it that way. And the only way you would be able to do it anyway is usually if you've defaulted, your only option is really to do it like this over the phone. Really quickly, just gets done like that. And it's much faster over the phone than it is bank linking because you could take more time or you don't connect or something happens. So just be aware of that. It's not bad. It's just you have to think about your needs. Background checks, a huge one. And I'll end it with this one. If you have a background report comes back with a criminal record or past financial issues and past UCC filings too, depending on the service, I mean, we can work with those blanket liens, UCC filings, UCC ones, etc. Then it can be an automatic decline, but we'll be reasonable if it was in the past and you've changed your ways. I have people come to me all the time who have a criminal record, and I don't judge anybody. I have people who are open with me. I love these people because they've shown the most amount of change as a person. They've demonstrated it to themselves. They don't have to demonstrate it to anybody. They got to show it to themselves first. And then the external world will start to see that. And I have a huge amount of respect for people like that. I have family, my mom's brothers, and they've been in and out of the jail system when they were younger, not anymore. They've learned their lessons, But I understand that culture. I haven't been in it myself because I grew up different, educated, and a lot more, but I understand that, and people change their ways. I have uncles right now who've gone through that, and they're the top of the top in their industry now, and they're professionals at what they do. They're the people that people will come to them for questions and everything, and they're the boss in what they do. And so changing your ways, I understand that, but more importantly is they change their characteristic. So they understand the nature that we don't cause friction, we don't cause resistance. We're going to do this with the most effortless way possible, Michael. I know you. And I don't want you to have to age 20 years. I'm going to make this as simple for you. And truly, a lot of people do go the extra miles, and I do too. So we'll be reasonable. I guess a little bit more. Financial fraud, past default, and past default judgments in place can hurt you, as I said. Submitted altered bank statements to another lender can be very hard to overpass. So try not to do that, because we'll find out. There's more to it, like debt to income. Doesn't necessarily have to be the main factor, but making sure you're credit eligible. You don't have what's that word I was looking for? A frozen account on credit, because we'll also weigh that. So make sure that it is unfrozen when you come and apply. And that also can make the difference between you getting a weekly and a daily if you have strong credit. I've had people who come in who do have stronger credit, but they only received the daily where they wanted weekly. And because we had to unfreeze their account, or they have some fraudulent notifications, they have to contact that bureau and ask them about it and to remove it. And so if it can't get removed, it can get. If it can't get, it's much harder to kind of bypass. Some of it we can look at, but it's going to be harder at a certain point when we look at the credit. Then we have to look extensively into the credit, a little bit more even with the soft pull. So just keep that in mind. So again, the whole topic of this was how to apply for a business loan. We kind of went off on a tangent, but you have to understand these things. You have to understand that how do you apply for a business loan? You don't make the mistakes of just applying anywhere and everywhere, not just when you're in underwriting too and trying to apply anywhere and everywhere. That doesn't look good on your part. And making sure that you go through the right individual, you understand the qualifications, requirements, as we more or less went into with some of the services. There's more others out there. And then you go and apply by understanding the pre-approval process, the step-by-step process. And I have a free guide on that you guys can check out. And when you apply, just understand the parameters. When you apply, you're going to go in, usually fintech companies, digital applications, sometimes the two with the PDF, sometimes if it's in-house with an SBA loan, you'll see that. And you're going to enter some information, some personal business information. Social security number usually is what we want. There's an EIN field you can fill in, either or sometimes, but the majority of the times we'll ask for it. Social security number, have it. ITIN number, sometimes we can ask for that. But social security number, first and foremost, to validate who you are, your credit, and more, that it's not fraudulent. So make sure that's there. And then you're just going to go through some business information, some surface level. How much do you want? What's your monthly revenue, your lowest month in the last 3 months, maybe on average, what are you doing? We'll look at credit. It's very safe and secure. We don't shop your information around like other people do. We're very safeguarded. But yeah, you go through that. You can select on the app sequence, like, do you want it? Sometimes we have it all in one. And again, like I said, I have those partnerships. So we could do a line of credit in advance, a term loan. Sometimes like that, we could do both. So you can have the option to select from once I communicate to you what I feel is best for you. And then once from there, you go through some more questions about your business. You might list a website name. If you don't have a website, social media, anything that we can find you, usually online. You want to have credibility, guys. This goes back to building the right portfolio. And then uploading bank statements, copy of your driver's license, and a voided check, or whatever is asked for. We can do that. We could get it in our back office. Sometimes, or the majority of the time, I like it being sent to me via email so I can organize it like Google Drive and then send it over to the lender. Either way works. I like it just to be sent to me via email. Either way I can see it, but email is just the way that I have it, and it's a better system for me to work with. But either way is fine. Again, I'll show you which way I recommend when we get to that point. And then once that's there, I get notified. I'll go to work behind the scenes and work on these things, and then I'll keep you up to date. I'll email you, probably send you a text. Hey, we received your application completed and signed. We're in the process of reviewing. I am, myself, my team, and then we'll get to that next point. Once we reviewed and we see it's sufficient enough, we're going to go get you the best offer from the best lender for you without hurting your credit. And again, I already have those partnerships. Once from that stage, then I'll keep you up to date. It could take 1 to 2 days to get an offer, sometimes a little bit more, an extra 1 to 2 or so days to make sure we get you the best offer. And that's where we're competing for you, and we're making sure we're giving you the best. Early payment discounts, you can earn 2% on all fundings. If you refer people and they get funded, you can pay off your funding much faster, and it's much cheaper. 1% on all ERC credits. There's an exclusive partnership that I have that nobody else has access to. No other organizations do. And because I have a strong network and I work with the best, I don't settle for less. You want to go for somebody who settles for less, go for it. But if you want to work with the best, you work with the best, period. And I say that in a confident, non-cocky way, confident and certain way. I'm not a cocky person at all. So let me go to the comments. I hope that helped kind of shed some light into how do you apply for a business loan, because it's most important not just to understand what the application process is, and I kind of more or less went through that here. There's other ways I can show you, but you've got to understand. And then once you're in underwriting, you go through that. I'll give you feedback, offer. If we get to that stage, I'll communicate it with you. I won't ever pressure you. It's bada boom, bada bing. Hey, that's what I wanted, Michael. Let's go ahead and do it. If it's better that way, good. Get it done. Okay, we're preparing the contract. We're going to send you this link, and we're going to send you this from this funder, this lender. Okay, boom, 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 done. You get the funding the same day. You probably get it in the afternoon. You apply it in the morning, or you apply it in the morning. You get that offer taken in the morning. You can get it tomorrow morning or in the afternoon/evening. That's how fast it can be within 1 to 2 days. It's pretty quick. Sometimes it's same day if you apply at the right time. So let me go to the comments. I know some of you guys have commented and now have left the room. But for those of you who have commented and have stayed, I see you guys. Appreciate you not being impatient. I know you're not interrupting, but if you guys don't understand what I'm going through and giving you guys and just want to go and apply and just want the brief level stuff just to go and apply, that isn't right. Now let me come up here and then I'm going to close up shop. I've overextended my time. I need to get out of here before 10:45. What do I have for a real estate broker business without collateral? What are you using your funds for, Lombard? Just depends on where the funds are being allocated. If it's a working capital, growth and expansion, it's not a real estate investment, then I can work with that. Other forms of it, we don't need collateral. If it's traditional real estate financing, we'll need a down payment. Now the down payment depends on the loan to cost, loan to value, of course. So like I have a lot right now, people who want multifamily, single family, condos. I have to get back to quite a few of you guys, so please be patient with me if I haven't, and for other reasons. But the down payment is a factor. It's not always 10%. You're going to need 20 to 30%. You're going to need that extra push, 20 to 40% commercial real estate. So a down payment is weight heavier than if you don't have collateral. It's okay. I can help you with that. And that was the premise of this video as well. The max for no collateral, good question. So that varies. It can be up to 5 million. We can do that. We can do up to 2 million as well. Up to 2 million is more common, especially in this market. What I see right now for a lot of businesses is between 100 to 200,000. They can go above 200,000 if you have the revenue. They want to keep it between 100 to 200, 100 to 300,000, 100 to 250,000 is a very reasonable place to start because there's a lot of market fluctuation. And you can have stronger revenue to generate like 300, 600,000, a million without collateral. I have business owners who have taken that and they don't want to offer up more. They don't want to have to give up more documents, more collateral. They say, Michael, I can take $1 million unsecured term loan. That's fine. And I got to pay that amount. So be it if the rate's a little bit higher. I know I'm paying this off for this and I know I needed this. It's on a tight pinch. I don't have that other documentation to provide and more. Start a business, bio, link, click. Go to the personal/startup loan option. There's also the 0% interest, but the first button is the submission form. Fill that out. Sorry, guys, I got to get through. I'm not going to go through everything right now, and I'm kind of tired from yesterday's live. Who are funding these loans I am talking about? Yes, I can most definitely elaborate. And so there are different lenders, private investors as well. You can kind of intermix the two of them and how they're associated together, and I associate with them myself. But it isn't a bank per se. There are banking loans like SBA backed, and there are a few others if you have to go the credit union route. So these are private lenders who have money, organizations who have their own money. Like an individual like myself, if I were to be a lender, I have that money. I can get it from the bank or I can get it in various ways, especially resurfacing my cash flow with people I give money to and I get my money back from, that I can give it back to someone else. So they have this money and I go, hey, you're speaking with Michael. Michael has about $350,000 to give to a roofing contractor with a B tier or A tier where they have stronger credit, revenue, time in business. And so they can pull from that and say, hey, we're going to wire them. They have it stored in an account where they can then send you that money, wire that money over to you, and then they can get an ACH withdrawal. And it depends on different ways of getting that transaction. So they have this money. These are private lenders, again, that I'm associated with. When the banks can't lend to you or you're bankable, but the bank isn't the number one solution. I have people who come to me to this day who can get 2 million, 3 million from banks. And that's hard to get right now. Like they won't a lot of the times push past 500,000. Look at the Chases of the world and more. It's a little bit harder right now, especially lines of credit. But the underwriting isn't always that great. They're not always communicating with one another. It's faster over here. It's more professional. They understand their stuff. You might get a slightly higher rate. Sometimes it's close to bank rates, especially SBA loans and a few other ones like online term loans, even equipment loans and some others. But it's not the interest rate that should be number one. It's your benefit exceeding the repayment. I'm taking $1 million and I'm turning that into $2 million, and I'm doing it in less than 6 months, Michael. And I was given a 12-month term because of my credit, but I have strong revenue. Like, I'm taking that, and I have no other option, or I can't wait to have all of that filed and taken care of. Everybody has a different situation, and so with about over 80% of people who cannot get a traditional bank loan, there's online bank loans, of course, but even those, even if you can't qualify, aren't going to always give you the best. Ain't going to give you the maximum amount. You might have to put your home on the line and other things. But just keep that in mind, that you don't have to collateralize. And there's these private lenders and institutions who I work with, and I've teamed up with the best, just so you guys know. That's not a catch. It's not like he's just saying it just to say it. It's the truth. I'm going to go back. I got to get back to work. It's 10:44. But I got to go back to some emails. I got to get caught up with a few people. But let me end this video by seeing a few more comments down below. I'll try to go through these fast. You have good credit. Nice, a 720. Yeah, that's very good and respectable. I always tell people right now, if you have above a 700, that's going to open a lot more doors. Debt to income ratio, I'm sure, is at a minimum. I can ask you more questions on all that. But for time, for 720, thank you for sharing that as well. I very much do appreciate, and I'm grateful, because I know how much sometimes it takes for somebody to express these things without even having to ask. So appreciate you doing that publicly. And, you know, even people who don't have good credit are happy just sharing it. I don't want to bring that up all the time. That's something we could talk on the back end. And as a sole member LLC, nice. Good job on that. What is the best interest-based loan that I recommend? Good question. I love it. Thanks. So it depends on a service. So what are you looking to use your funds for? And how's business been going for you this year, by the way? And what kind of business do you operate in? So my way of looking at it is I reverse engineer. I have a systematic mathematical mind. If you know me, you know this. And I looking at the front, and I go, what's at the top of the mountain? I see the SBA loans. SBA loans are number one. So if you have a 720 credit score and you're looking for up to 10 years, you can get up to 25 years with real estate involved. And I'm getting SBA loans done like this, guys. Like, when people come to me, I had a guy today who told me, Michael, you're the best I've ever had to work with. It's a pleasure. Literally, I have people who ask or say that, not ask, are you the best to work with? Sometimes they will, but the majority of them know they know. Like, when they come to me, they're in the safest of hands. It's not like Allstate, you're in good hands. But really, you are. Literally, you are in the best, safest, securest hands. I'll go to work for you, and I'll understand your file, and I'll go, you have a 720 credit, but this lender, if you're looking at an SBA loan, won't look at you. They're going to send your information to this, and you don't want that maybe. So I go to this online SBA loan lender as opposed to a traditional bank, because it's more flexible in underwriting. Maybe it's a non-banking SBA loan lender, and I have all these associations, guys, the best SBA lenders in the market. I got to get back to a few of them in the afternoon. They'll get in contact with me via email. But 720, let me see if you commented down below here. So yeah, just what kind of business are you in? How's it been going? What are you looking to use your funds for? More importantly, that's what also will determine what interest rate you do get, because SBAs are a bit different. If you're looking for non-collateralized or collateralized, there's those options. But right now, bank rates, you know, you're looking at a prime rate of 7.5%. We're not looking at commercial real estate property where you use something you can get into the 4% or so over amortized 30 years or so. But at 7.5, that interest rate could be coming up here shortly to 8.25 or so. Well, we might see that. So 7.5 or so plus a 2 to 8%, or 7.5 plus 2% with accounts receivable, unpaid invoices, what you see in the market. It can go into the early teens. So 7.5 plus 2%, you're looking at about 9.5%, if not 10%, variable, fixed. So there's a few things we look at in the market as it fluctuates. We have to make a per quarter determination. We come back with the lender and we go, hey, we got to bump this up a little bit. Your industry, your revenue, things are shifting. That's okay. It's fine. Sometimes it's just fixed and you get better. But 7.5 to 2.8, or we'll say 2 to 8%. I want to keep saying 2.5 because I'm thinking SBAs, or 2.7. SBA 7.5, standard SBA 7A from 500 about 5 million. And a lot of the times they want to lend up to 2 to 3 million right now. But what you're seeing is 7.5 plus about 2.5 or 2.25 for those type of loans. You'll see 2.75 uncommon, or common I should say. Express loans, small SBA 7A loans, you could see 7.5 plus about 3.75 to 6.75. I've seen that. So it's not always as an attractive piece. So if you're looking at it and going, well, I'm going to be getting 10 to 15%, and I can get a term loan if I qualify for with strong credit in the revenue, I can actually get it at 15.5 or 17.5. I guess there's a difference there, but only 2%. And you're looking at the benefit. I only needed this for a year. I didn't need it for 10 years just to have money on hand. And it could be more expensive to get an SBA loan if it's not growth related. If it's working capital, payroll, inventory, that's expensive money because it's just sitting there and they're going to calculate it to become more, and it's going to be a lot. There's going to be good faith deposits usually. There'll be more on the back end, like 10 to 15, if not 5 to 10,000 in closing liquidity. There's a little bit more. But I recommend, it's not based on interest. Like I said, again, I don't like to base things off an interest rates. I get it if we're very old school and we think about banks. I've done that for the majority of my life. I'm sure you have as well. These are not home mortgages. These are not EIDL loans where you're supposed to get the lowest. With collateral, it's better. So it just depends on what you have and what you want to give up. If it's non-collateralized, usually you look at like 15 to about 70%. Sometimes it can be higher. If we calculated the APRs, they can even go into the 200 to 300%. And it's not all about APR. It's not about, well, I got 27% or I got a 1.27 total payback or a factor rate on top of my funding. That's how it's calculated. So be it. I have a restaurant owner, a lady who came by like this, literally. She knew she needed 200,000. She got 4 offers in California, or 5. The highest amount that we were willing to give her is 200,000 at a 1.27 total payback. So that multiplier by what she had to pay back, she could do it easily. So she didn't hesitate. She said, Michael, I just needed that. Just give it to me. She could have taken it if it was 40%. She didn't care. She knows she needs that money. She goes, I'm going to use it for growth and expansion where I'm going to double, triple, quadruple my money. That's how you should be looking at it as. Don't be looking at it as having, I want money on reserve. That's what people come to me and go, can you give me the lowest interest rate so I can get just money to have on hand? You'll never learn how to use that money in a short or a medium intermix. You're going to always depend on having longer term money. And if that's your position, that's fine. It just has to make sense. So there are term loans that I recommend. Those are the highest right now. It's an intermix with an advance, a hybrid advance. And again, like I said, I work with the best. I got to get going here in a moment. Literally. I know you guys are just dropping in, but let me see here. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for the follows. And if you haven't shared, please do so. But it's kind of late now since I'm going to close. I don't say that enough. No, it is possible with the right credit. So if you have stronger credit, we're going to look at credit-based programs. We're going to want to work with you and help you build your business credit. Ultimately, I don't want to get into these subjects one by one right now. I got to get going. But bio, link, click, all the options are there. First button is the best one to submit. Go there. A lot of people do it, and that's what I recommend everybody do. I'm getting people 100, 150, 300,000. I have 2.6 million, a million in approvals. People have taken them. Other 2.6 and 2.6 million and more of them. But I have more to get back to here with more people applying. And so, again, like I said, when you guys come to me, you guys get the best attention. I won't ask you to be open about your credit score. If you know it is your credit score and you know the reasoning, maybe you don't have you been monitoring your credit? Is it anything derogatory, late payments? What is it exactly? I mean, you could not state that. I don't want to get too, personal on things. I don't want to deep dive. But yeah, these could be factors to getting business funding, especially if you're basing it off personal/startup loans or a credit-based program. Yeah, it can be hard out there. It's not simple. Or it's simple, it's not always easy. It's easy for some. How can you get 50K for growth? Good question. What kind of growth, by the way, or what kind of expansion project or projects you have going on? That also is helpful for me to know because I know how you'll distribute your money. Even better when you tell me, like, I'm using 50,000, but I'm going to take 25 of that and I'm going to put it into inventory. Another piece of 25,000 equally, I'm going to use for marketing and advertising. I have a 1-to-3 ratio, or I'm going to get to a 1-to-3 ratio. So I know that if I put this would be my return on my investment. So I'd like to know that. And in the bio, first button, when you click the link, fill out the funding submission form. Or you guys can go to viralfundingsolutions.com. Viral, and then funding without an S, solutions with an S at the end.com. Email, it is Michael, Michael, at viralfundingsolutions with an S at the end again, .com. What do you mean by shoot it? You mean like give you the real stuff? I'm at the end of the video, guys. Appreciate you guys who just tuned in, though. I'll give you a second to reply back. I have to get going. Literally, I don't want to spend too much time. I was on here for about 3 hours yesterday. Literally about 2, maybe over 2 hours. Can you guys go to somebody like myself who knows the stuff that I do? I don't really believe so. There are a lot of people who overpromise and underdeliver. They do what's in their best interest. I have people who go and get people funding and they tell them, hey, we can get you weekly, we can get you monthly. Just send us the bank statements. You know what I mean? Ding, ding. And then they end up telling you, oh, this doesn't work. You're only going to get this daily repayment of a $350. And they didn't even tell you that up front. Why don't you tell me that up front? Because they don't know how to. They don't know how to break it down. They don't know how to understand objections. They don't even get funding. I've received funding. I have multiple businesses, guys. It's me who's doing this independently. I'm not working in India, no offense, but I'm not working for like a call center. I can choose my time, and I have had to earn every bit of it. Don't say that I was given this, because I've had to earn everything in my life. I had to earn becoming a Division I soccer athlete, a professional, because I'm not athletically gifted, but I have had to outsmart everybody. Position-wise, we had the hardest position in the center of the midfield of the soccer field. I've had to earn myself in academics. I went and I got retained when I was in 3rd grade in California, and that was not a good feeling. But there were some challenges, and I overcame them, and I became proficient. And everything I've been given, I've had to earn it. I've had to earn the respect. Some people are just gifted, given the physicality. They're given the communication. I speak multiple languages, by the way. I speak Spanish. I'm fluent. I can read it, write it. Sometimes I forget it because I speak English a lot more times. My family, my cousins, everybody, and they know who I am when I walk into a room. I don't have to speak a lot. I'm very humble. I'm very respectful. I could be the quietest. My younger brother will tell you that. But I could be also the most deadliest person in that room. You can hear a girl talking a lot. You can hear a guy talking a lot. But what if I'm not? That doesn't mean I'm not social. That doesn't mean I don't want to talk. It just means I prefer my space at times. And I know who I go with. I know who I communicate with. I'm not just going to... And I get along with everybody, just so you guys know. In high school, I was that guy who I could be in multiple groups. I had my group, but I was in multiple groups. And, everybody knew really who I was and how caring of a person. I've always had that nurturing character. And I guess that's what us Libras we have. Just becoming more methodical and thoughtful in the process. But I'm not saying you guys aren't. That's not what this is. Everyone has that. And you have a higher capability if you haven't discovered that. We just have to take the time to do it. Yes, I'm not going to get into the 0% too much right now. I got to go, guys. I really got to go do some marketing stuff. On my part, I got to do it myself. I got to get into LinkedIn. I skipped out on that yesterday. I have a schedule like you guys do. And so 0% interest for 6 to 18 months, up to 150, up to 250, with a 680 credit score on all 3 consumer credit bureaus. You ideally want to have less than 30% utilization, really close to 10% less, especially if you're using credit cards. I would limit it to like 6% total, 6 to 10%. That's great. That's awesome if you have that. 20% and less, even better. That's amazing if you can't do the 30% or so. But minimal inquiries in the last 90 or so days. You really want to have at least only 3 at most with each credit bureau. So why overexceed that? That can disqualify you. There's a little bit more. You can pull out and liquidate the cash out of these credit lines or these credit cards, and then you can use them for any investments, put them in the bank, use them however you choose, use them in a retirement account, use them however you choose to say, hey, I'm going to put that money in this other business checking account that are solely going for products, for payroll. And then I have now another account. So you got to also ask yourself, is that money collecting dust? Is there money in that money account that's being withdrawn from and it's making it more expensive? So then you keep adding money into that account to resurface. There's a lot of different ways. But bio, link click, and then there's the 0% interest button you guys can click on. Go to the site viralfundingsolutions.com and you'll learn more. Okay, I hope that helped you out. There's a lot more information of that, but I got to get going. Thank you guys for joining. If I missed anybody, I apologize. I really have to go. Appreciate you guys for tuning in, like always. I may be on later, but I may not be. Don't count on that. But I have to get going for now. Appreciate you guys like always. Hopefully you got the value. Bio, link click, fill out the funding submission form. That's number 1. Description as well. If you're watching this later on YouTube as a replay, make sure to check that out. All information will be there. And again, if you want to work with an expert, you work with an expert on how to apply for a business loan correctly. And I showed you guys certain steps to that pre-application process, which is most important. That is everything for now. Talk to you all soon. Bye.